Hello and welcome back to Bad Lit Friends, the writing podcast that barely knows what it's doing. I'm Kirk Rafferty, and this is my co-host.
I'm Meagan Thompson-Mann, delighted to be back again.
This is episode 4, can you believe it?
Barely.
This is nuts. We've been doing this, I guess, for, 4 weeks.
Well done us. I've had relationships that have been much shorter. I just wanted to start out with saying thank you to Pam Allah, I think I'm getting it right, who gave us the most amazing review on Apple Podcasts, our very first review. It was not only 5 stars. She said some wonderful things that went straight to our heads. So thank you.
We obsessed over this one review for a while, didn't we?
I think I literally squeed in my office. I was very excited.
We're going to screenshot it and then frame it up on Bad Lit Friends Studio 7.
Correct. So I thought we might also sort of catch up on where we are with our projects.
I have made no progress on my next novel.
Fantastic.
So I still have 1,100 words 2 weeks later. But I did write about 1,500 words for my existing novel. There are some holes in it that I haven't really felt good about. And so I actually wrote 2 brand new scenes, and I'm feeling like the novel's a little bit more fleshed out. So I actually did do some writing this week, which felt pretty good.
Fantastic. I have to say it's weird to step back into a world that I have not been in for 6 months. It feels like I'm a tourist in a country I used to live in.
Yeah.
Getting up to speed.
I feel that way every time now I go back to my first book for whatever reason, and I read parts of it, and it sort of feels, it's like kind of almost like coming home, right? Like, you left home at 18 and you're coming back at like 26 or whatever. That's kind of what it feels like. Like you're familiar with it, but you're not familiar with it. Like it's all a little crazy. So yeah.
So you can't go home again, but you go home again and you go, oh, what the fuck is this place?
Yeah, exactly. Or in my case, I'm like, wow, did you really think that sounded good on the page?
I can relate.
On a book that the editors actually have in their hands, I'm making an edit on because I'm like, oh my God.
This is very on brand for us. Very on brand. I was incredibly inspired by our brilliant 3rd episode to do some editing on my completed manuscript. I've pressed pause right now on querying it. In the past week, I have cut almost 2,000 words so far. This is because I really do want to sell this book. Having spent 6 months or so away from it, I can see where there are problems that potentially could be putting agents off. I'm far enough away to have some sort of perspective on it now that I absolutely did not have in February when I thought it could snuggle up next to James Joyce. It can't. Then that's okay. But also, I'm motivated because there is an upcoming contest by Ms. Lexia. I'll put the information about Ms. Lexia in the show notes. There's an application due by September 22nd. There are a variety of competitions, but this is for a women's fiction novel, which mine nominally is. So I'm going to go for it. I will encourage others to have a look at their website as well, since they have a variety of contests.
Right on.
Sadly, my work in progress is stalled while I work on book 1. But I am super excited to write some new scenes featuring my villain, who is also in book 2, because he's awful.
Excellent. And, speaking of contests, I would be remiss without mentioning that our very own producer, Rylan Rafferty, was an honorable mention for the Gutsy Great Novelist Page 1 Prize for 2025.
Congratulations, Rylan. Absolutely well-deserved. You are a brilliant writer, and not just because you make me sound brilliant.
I will tell you this. I entered that contest as well, and I didn't place at all. And she got an honorable mention. So I'm a little jealous, which goes right into our episode.
The old hoary chestnut. Comparison is the thief of joy. Or so said Teddy Roosevelt. Maybe, probably not. Good old TR is incredibly problematic. There's so much racism, imperialism, eugenics, proto-alpha male podcast bullshit. But even if he did coin it, which he almost certainly didn't, he was kind of right. There is nothing like comparing yourself to where other people are in their journeys to make you feel not only hopelessly inadequate, but also full of rage and envy, most
Yeah.
of which is probably not useful. So we thought we might do a little therapy for querying writers, for indie writers who are at the beginnings of their journeys, and what works in comparison, and the larger segment, which is what does not work in comparing yourself.
Yeah. God knows I need the therapy.
Me too. And this will be cheap.
It'll be free. Yeah.
It'll be free because I'm not qualified to provide advice. Except that sometimes people say that I have mom energy, which is very flattering because I have a cat and that's it.
I've dabbled in other things throughout my whole life, and I don't think I ever quite compared myself to others in the way that I do with writing. I used to fly airplanes, and I don't think I ever looked at another pilot and thought, wow, this guy is successful and I hate him for it. But God's honest truth, I definitely have been jealous of other writers who have found success. And any writer that says otherwise is a damn liar.
I used to knit a lot in knitting groups, and these were incredibly supportive, instructive, warm, and accepting environments. I never felt like I was comparing myself against. If I saw something I didn't know how to do and felt like, oh wow, I wish I could do that, I could just ask and she would show me how to do it and I would be able to do it too.
Didn't you ever feel like sabotaging a knitting needle or something, though?
Never. Although knitting, like writing, can be a very solitary pastime. When you are producing things, you are trying to make uniform products at the end. You want to have it look beautiful. You don't want any lumpy bits or holes or drop stitches or anything. When we're writing, we're trying to create singular objects that speak to ourselves and our own passions more than creating something that is uniformly perfect, right? Because we want our personality to show through. And it's never going to look like anybody else's. My writing is my baby. It is my ego, my id, and my super ego all at the same time. And if it sucks, ergo, I suck too. I never felt that way about my knitting. But there is something about expressing yourself through the word that isn't the same through yarn.
And for whatever reason, it brings out those more competitive feelings in us. But it's not like these big name published writers. I don't know, for whatever reason, like I will read a good turn of phrase and I'll be like, wow, I just will never be this good a writer or something. But I never feel kind of the jealousy or whatever. It's writers who are less successful or something. So you and I both know this particular person that we met at a conference. He's just an unlikable person. I won't drop names, but we didn't care for him. I was actually in a workshop, and so I was exposed to some of his writing. And his writing I thought was like, okay, it's okay, right? It's not terrible, but I did feel that little streak of like, I don't like him. So like his writing must be crappy, right? His writing is not crappy. It's just, from the writing that I saw it was okay writing.
Isn't the worst though? You want it to be bad.
Yeah, I just saw that he got a 2-book deal. He started querying after I started querying. He got an agent after I got an agent. But he has, apparently written at least like a pretty good book. And so, of course I was not consumed. I wasn't consumed. I hope that I've kind of matured past consumed with jealousy. But I have reflected on it. And you know what? Quite frankly, his success is our success, right? So every time somebody gets a book deal, that means that there's people out there reading books. And so this is one of those cases where, the rising tide lifts the dinghies or whatever.
Boats, yeah. You're incredibly generous and far more generous than I am. I think my heart is just obsidian at this point. And I think some of that has to do with the different genres that you and I write in.
Sure.
Because a lot of what I write is women's fiction or women's fiction adjacent. So there's a ton of amazing women's fiction that I've read and just went, I'm never going to do anything as good as this. This is just amazing. But there's a lot of stuff that I have read or DNF'd that I just say, I don't even know. I'm not talking about self-published or anything like that. I'm talking about trad pub stuff where I've read it and gone, I don't understand how this got published, number one. Number two, how it has how many thousand reviews on Goodreads. I get angry, not because I think I am a genius, but because I also think about all of the other writers I know out there who are fantastic and are not getting the same opportunities. But so it comes back to what we know about publishing, which is that a lot of it has to do with luck, timing, who you know. Genre, just what the flavor is right now. Romantasy was nothing 10 years ago, and now it's so much of what gets published. I try to remind myself that this person whom I think is not very good, I realize that this is a person who was in the right place at the right time, and good for them. Because I know that a lot of my success in my own life has come from being in the right place at the right time, saying the right things to the right people. So
well, it helps too when, you're, I'm going to use finger quotes here, like your competition is actually likable. So at that same conference, I also met another gentleman that shared his manuscript with me. So I read like his first chapter, couldn't believe how good this book was. And he's like, would you like to beta read it? And I was like, yes, of course I want to beta read this thing. And it's a super fantastic book. I'm not jealous at all for whatever reason, but he has since landed an agent, which does not surprise me at all. I cannot wait for this book to get sold and buy it off a shelf. So I think that same conference, right? Two different people. One of them I just didn't like.
Isn't it interesting, though, that you responded more positively to the person whose writing you considered to be as good as or superior to your own?
Better than mine. Yeah.
Yeah. It comes down to this sort of fairness thing. Is it fair?
True.
I am someone who has been consumed by the concept of fairness since I was a toddler. Ask my mother, hi, Mom, I know you're listening, which is probably why I ended up in the law. The reality is the world is hopelessly unfair. And yet I can't stop myself for fighting for it.
Yeah.
For greater fairness. But I do find it interesting that it is comparing ourselves to people that we think are not as able or as experienced as we are in their success. But in time, those views can change with greater exposure to somebody's writing, for example, as you increase your familiarity with their work, or maybe they're just a genuinely nice person. It hurts less.
And going back to the fairness thing, and we're going to talk about this, I think, next episode. So spoiler alert, I queried for 2 years. And again, these are visceral reactions, right? I'm not justifying them. They're kind of the first little hit that goes in your head. When I was kind of getting on at 2 years, you've got this little thing that crawls into your head. It's like, look, I deserve this. And then you see somebody like, oh, it took me 3 months to finally get an agent. And I was like, I want to strangle you, right? Those are visceral reactions. Nobody owes you anything. I often say, and I am often told, you don't have to write a good book. You have to write a marketable book.
Correct.
And again, we're talking trad pub here, right? Because I'm not qualified to speak indie. I don't think you're qualified to speak indie.
No, not at all.
Yeah, in trad pub, your book has to be marketable. That's it. You're not owed this. You just have to kind of figure out how to write that marketable book. And then you also have to be lucky as well. There is that visceral reaction about fairness. Like, I've been querying for 2 years. I'm owed this. And whoever hasn't been querying for two years, they're not owed it.
I mean, it does start to feel sometimes like, what am I, an incel? I'm owed it. All these bitches better just give me their attention. I've been doing this for 2 years. So some of my takes are hotter than others. At least for me, now that I'm kind of in this world that you inducted me into, a lot of this is being on social media, being exposed to what other people are doing. I think if I had been doing this on my lonesome or just kind of doing it with you without interacting with other people online, I wouldn't know that I was doing anything really wrong. Because what I knew before I started any of this was, this is a long game. There's going to be a lot of rejection. That's okay. Every single author that you can think of has had so many rejections. I knew this to be true. It was when I got back onto social media after a long break that I started comparing myself against other people and thinking, what am I doing wrong? And it triggered, my lifelong imposter syndrome. Do I belong here? Is what I'm doing okay? The feedback I was getting from my critique partners in my writing circle and my alpha readers was, you're doing a great job. This is a book. You've written a book. Like, these are good. I'm really interested. So everything that I was hearing was, this is great. And then to go online and see all these other people being so successful, or what felt like success to me, made me feel just like a failure, honestly. But the longer I'm in this space, the more I'm starting to realize that that's not true, and that the only metric I can really compare myself against is my prior writing.
Absolutely.
Compare it, and I can see a real arc of how and why I have improved, and the ways that I've improved, and the advice that I've read that I've put into practice. And the more I focus on myself and stop thinking about what other people are doing, the more, I'm not going to say satisfied. That's not really it. The less paranoid I think I feel about it.
Yeah.
I'm me. I'm the writer that I am. I am not like anybody else.
Imposter syndrome is a real thing. I've had imposter syndrome all my life. I just didn't know it up until probably 10 years ago. That really feeds into the feelings that we have when we're comparing ourselves to other writers, when we're looking at somebody who has found success, and our visceral reaction is, but I worked harder for it, right?
Yeah.
And so that feeds into it as well. And those are great strategies that you mentioned, by the way, to kind of deal with it, because you're right. Everybody's on their own roller coaster.
Yeah.
I know that logically, you know that. I think logically, we all know that you cannot compare yourself to somebody whose journey is completely different.
It's art. And we sometimes forget that what we are is artists. I mean, you and I have an inside joke about the artistes and the artisans, and I am a sensitive artiste. We are artists. And we forget that what we do is an art, simply because the written word is ubiquitous in our culture. We are artists, and artists create their own worlds, their own universes. My universe doesn't have to intersect with yours. Comparison is not only the thief of joy, it's the thief of any reason about what we're doing as artists. We are individuals. It can be very harmful to our self-esteem. And when we start undermining ourselves about our ability to be artists, the well can start to run dry. And we start getting in these horrible feedback loops that we create ourselves. We might fool ourselves into saying, oh, this is coming from outside. The call is coming from inside the house. We need to understand that what we're doing is our own art, and to stop thinking about ourselves necessarily as people who are trying to sell products. Stop it. Be awful.
Yeah, why not?
You're doing good stuff. Let people know.
You have to know when to have your artist hat on and when to have your business hat. You have to kind of know how to segment those. I think the jealousy, or just just being pissed off because this guy made it and you haven't made it yet, does come from the artistic side.
It does. I mean, you can think about any number of literary enemy situations that were out there. I mean, sort of Truman Capote and Gore Vidal is a classic one. They hated each other's guts. Even as they, called each other untalented hacks, they also appreciated each other's brilliance. They fucking hated each other.
Yeah. I have about 3 literary nemesises, and none of them know that they are my nemesis.
I hope I'm not one.
You are not one. Rylan is currently my literary nemesis because she just won that contest and I didn't place at all.
Kirk and I actually have both entered into the same contest, the craft contest. So we'll see who comes out on top on that one.
Oh, yeah.
I'll hate you forever.
We could be like joint nemesis, and we would know that we're joint nemesis. And so that would be
great. Yeah. It'll feed our craft. It'll feed our pod. Let the hate flow through you.
That's right. That's right.
This is what I say every day when I sit down to work. Let the hate flow through you. Open that inbox.
I'm gonna stand outside your book signings and be like, "Oh, Meagan had to cancel, so just go home."
I'll sign on the frontispiece of all of your books, like, I hate you, don't buy this book. Love, Kirk.
It's gonna be great.
It will be great. I mean, I'm waiting for that moment when we're both on the shelf in different parts of the store.
Yeah, you stay on your side of the store, and I'll stay on my side.
That's right. What were we talking about? So I was at a writers conference earlier this year in February, the Southern California Writers Conference. And it was in San Diego. They're having another one actually next month in September, and then another one in January. I made myself do one of these writing on command situations simply because I hate them desperately. I don't like feeling like a performing seal, but I also wanted to do something that pushed me outside of my comfort zone.
I enjoy my comfort zone too much.
I have severe anxiety, so like every day is me pushing myself out of my comfort zone. And sometimes I just go, you know what? It's going to suck. Dude, just try it. If you really hate it, you can walk out of the room. I did it. And I actually took the 100 or so words that I managed to pump out in 15 minutes. And they're in my current work in progress, and they're not bad. This is a very safe space to fail in, perhaps even safer than being at home where I have a limited amount of time and everything I've got to do. I'm like, I got to nail it. I got to get it right because I only got X number of hours during the weekend to do things.
Sure.
It doesn't matter how much it sucks. Some of it sucked. I've chopped some of it, but a lot of it wasn't bad. I would encourage you, Kirk, to do something that makes you uncomfortable.
We'll see. My first drafts are just me getting shit down on the page, and they're not great. And so if we're doing an exercise where I just have to get words down, like they're going to be terrible words. There, of course, is always that fear of judgment if you have to read it. I know a lot of times you don't have to read it, but there is that fear of judgment there. Really, for me, it's just like looking at those words and thinking, I just failed the assignment. Like they're just garbage. It's just terrible.
That's okay, because a lot of the other stuff that's happening in that room is garbage too. And because everybody expects to be garbage, the baseline is absolute trash. If you peek your head above the parapet by like one discarded banana peel,
that's how you catch an arrow in the face. You know that, right?
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it that way. That's good. That's a good way of putting it. But yeah, for me, it's this idea that some people are natural writers and that I'm not a natural writer because I have to sit down and I really have to think about it. If this person can pump out that many words, even if they're not all good, they already know what they're doing because at least they're getting something on a page. I'm here consumed by, what is the right verb? What's wrong with me? Why can't I figure this out? These people who are writing 3,000 words aren't tying themselves into pretzels, thinking about what is the perfect verb in this situation. I'm me. That's who I am. And that's okay. That's okay. It doesn't mean I'm not a natural writer. It also doesn't mean that I don't suck at the same time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
As a child, I wrote a lot. Well into high school, edited 2 literary magazines in high school. All I wanted to do was be a writer. I never thought I sucked because I had the confidence of youth. As an adult coming back to writing after a 25-year break, I thought, I can't write anymore. That darling child who knew how to string word after word after word, where the hell did she go? I now realize that darling child was good for her age. And had I put in the time between the ages of 20 and 45, I might have improved. Unfortunately, I came back to it at 45. So let's start from that baseline.
There are people who are naturally talented writers. There are people who this comes easy to them. I tend to think that that's a little bit overblown in terms of things that we can concern ourselves about. Most writers go through the same thing that you're talking about, which is exercising that muscle, right? Like that's how you get to be a better writer. It's always been hard for me. Writing has always been something that I love doing, but it's also, I have no scientific proof, but I think it's probably harder for me than it is for a lot of people.
Don't be so hard on yourself. And this is the hard thing, is that we can't inhabit each other's brains
Sure,
as much
sure.
as we feel like we could. And other people are just better at pretending that they don't have a hard time about it.
That's true too. But, I'll see somebody's writing that is like half my age. I'm like, damn, that's really good writing. Like, that's not something I could have done. We're all on different roller coasters, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's got their own little journey. That's my new saying. I'm going to get a t-shirt that says that. We're all on different roller coasters.
You can feel the envy. It's all right. It's a safe space right here. It doesn't feel fair when you feel like, I'm a better writer than this person I know objectively. Like, okay, come on. It's all subjective to one extent or another, but most of it is the useless comparison that just gets us bogged down and distracts us from what we're doing, which is working on our own stuff.
Well, and I'll tell you what my final takeaway is on that. You're right. It's useless, right? There's nothing creative that is going to come out of that. But I also think that you should give yourself some room to kind of experience that. I have like an immediate visceral feeling of, jealousy or whatever it is. I let myself experience it, and then I kind of move on. And eventually, like this particular person with the 2-book deal, it sort of becomes a running joke in my head. And so, like, I'm not even mad about it anymore. And quite frankly, I was mad about it for like, a second and a half. I really do think now, like, good for him. I hope you get a better personality, but I'm glad you got a book deal. Because it helps us all.
The only thing I want to say further on this is that when you're in online spaces where it feels like everybody else has it figured out, like even people who haven't gotten an agent yet, or they have an agent but they haven't published yet, everybody else seems to know what they're doing. When you start stepping into these spaces and you think, why does everybody know what they're doing? When am I going to figure it out? What am I missing out? It's like starting middle school and everybody knows each other and you're incredibly awkward and you're like, why does everyone else know what the rules of the game are? Will I ever have it figured out? Will I ever be a cool kid? I can't promise you will, but you will start to figure it out. It goes back to what Kirk and I keep banging on about, is making connections with people online and finding the people who will support you and cheer you on and also give you that information.
If anybody is out there that, is thinking about traditional publication, again, I'm not qualified to answer a lot of indie stuff, but if people do have questions about TradPub querying, what the publication process looks like, things like that, hit me up at any of my usual haunts, which is Bluesky, Threads. I'm on Instagram.
And I can say that he has taught me so much and has talked me off the ledge more times than I want to admit. I could not have gotten this far without Kirk.
No, you're going to make it. You're going to do it.
But I thought it might be useful to talk a little bit about how we can manage the comparison pains that we have. One of the things that you can do that's free is, if there is somebody whose success or perceived success is bothering you, you can unfollow them.
Yes, you can.
You can mute them. It is not very hard. You can also step away from social media. I did it for many years until I was lured back. It helps. Even if you step away for a few hours, a few days, just focus on what you're trying to do for your own self. There is this concept of productivity porn accounts. I follow a couple people who are genuinely proud of what they're doing. They're doing it for themselves. They post their metrics for themselves. Those are great because I can feel their enthusiasm and makes me feel good too. And also celebrate your own small wins, whether that's privately, whether it's online, whatever serves you is fine. But see where you are winning and don't belittle it and don't think, well, it's not a big thing. So what? It's a win. Who gives a shit?
And if you do celebrate it online, tag Bad Lit Friends and we will celebrate with you.
We will. Let's do hot goss.
Let's do it.
Oh, God. So what do authors owe their readers? The Sinners and Stardust conference Disaster is an understatement. Wow. I'm almost speechless about what happened. It was focused on romantasy, but also on dark romance,
Mm-hmm,
darker
mm-hmm.
fiction. This is a trigger warning. There was sexual assault of authors and cosplayers and support staff, just a whole bunch of people by attendees who believed that the content of the books and the content of the conference was some sort of consent to transgress and to
Yeah.
cross any number of boundaries without asking the other parties if they were okay. Straight up just sticking hands in trousers, up skirts, taking pictures of people in compromising situations, groping, all sorts of terrible things that were said. Quite frankly, it was shocking. And I say this as a feminist. We have an image that these things are perpetuated by men, but I was shocked to find out how much of it had been done by women. I honestly could not believe it. Just because you write about dark, sexy shit, and even if you are into having dark, sexy shit, that also requires consent. Full-throated consent.
A lot of times these dark romance novels come with disclaimers, right? That like, this is a work of fiction. This is not
Yep.
okay in the real world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, it's happening in the real world. And in a lot of these cases, it just seemed like some of these people felt like the nature of the conference itself gave the consent, right? And in many of these cases, the people being affected never gave any consent anyway. Let's be perfectly clear on that. But they were withdrawing any kind of consent that people thought,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like they said no. They said no. They tried to move away from it. And people were still doing these really gross and inappropriate things. And yeah, I don't know what's going on in the book world, but that was weird.
It wasn't so long ago that in many states it was impossible at law to rape your wife because there was implied consent under the law to sexual congress between
Mm-hmm.
husband and wife. Glad to report that this is no longer the case, at least in the US and in many other countries. But it made me think about that somehow that there is some contract that readers think that they have entered into with their favorite authors, their preferred authors, that if they are producing this content, that means that they are into it and that somehow the requirement for express consent has been obviated. Sorry for using some big words there. I've been at work today. But it bothers me a lot in spaces, especially in these spaces which are often pitched as being safe spaces for women, that women can perpetuate them against men, women, people who are non-binary. Ladies, do better. It's not enough to talk the talk, walk the walk.
Yeah. This one defied a lot of expectations, like the ones you mentioned, but all the conference dramas lately have been about the conference organizers. From what I can tell, it was not the conference that was encouraging this. It was clearly some number of conference goers who just decided to do these just awful things.
Yeah, and you and I have been to enough conferences. We know that alcohol flows. People start drinking, inhibitions come down when you are going into spaces where people are already talking about sex and they feel comfortable talking about sex because they should feel comfortable talking about sex in these environments. That's what they're set up to do. But it's like some weird bit of them gets unlocked, like, oh, what the fuck? I'm here. Might as well. Just shocking to me. I watched one video and I had to stop it and said, that is it. I know that there is more out there in the universe. I saw stuff that I could not believe that I was seeing. And Kirk is right. I mean, a lot of what we read about these conferences is just like, they promised us this amazing Bridgerton ball, and all we got was like some York peppermint patties on a tray and some guy with a wig on. That's not this. From what I hear, it was a really good conference. I have seen comments online from people who said everything that I experienced before then was positive, supportive, just fantastic. I'm going to be back
Mm-hmm.
next year. Other people saying I was starting to get a weird vibe from it as the day wore on, and that's why I left. So plenty of people had a very positive experience at this conference. So I'm not blaming the people who ran this conference. I think they did a good job. And from what I've been seeing, it sounds like they're doing some decent disaster management. I don't envy them. They're in a very bad situation that was not necessarily of their own doing. But I did hear also that there were some issues with security, and unfortunately it's a teachable moment here. And you don't think about it as an author. Who gives a shit, right?
Well, this is what's so strange about these conferences that go wild. There are some spicy writers out there, but when you think about your typical writer, a lot of us are just nerds in a corner with a laptop. You don't think that it could go like that. Like, if I'm thinking of a conference that's going to go bad, it's not writers, you know.
No, you don't think about it.
But man, there've been just so many things going wrong with conferences. I don't know.
This is just my hot take on conference drama, sort of generally. There are so many people who are so excited when they go to a good conference. They're like, I could do that. How hard could this be? It's hard. It requires so many more people than you think to organize these things, to manage these things, to get people from one place to another, to make sure that lunch is served on time. You're not having fun. You're not going to be at all the cool shit. You're going to be making sure that everyone else has a wonderful, seamless time.
Also, if you're organizing a conference, I don't know, but I guess you have to think about the lowest common denominator too, right? You have to like consider like, what do we do about the shitty people that show up?
I've organized 2 conferences when I was working in finance, and there were people who absolutely hated each other, like on a visceral level, hated each other. And these were people who were relatively big. How do we keep these people from having a moment? They're going to be near each other. They're going to be in the same room. How do we do this? And that requires a lot of staff. So my hot take, if you're going to do a conference, number 1, don't. Number 2, get staff if you have to. But my own feeling is that you don't want to do a conference. You want to go to more cool conferences.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the reality. And
yeah.
That's not the case here for Sinners and Stardust. I think they probably knew most of what they were doing. I'm thinking more about these disasters that we keep seeing about, oh, I thought I had the hotel, but I don't. Or I thought that I had the conference hall, but I don't. So instead of being at the Hyatt, we're going to be at the Motel 6.
I would say that, running a conference is definitely a skill set, right? Being a good person at a conference does not take any kind of skill at all.
No.
It just be a good person at a conference.
If you want to have a drink, you can have a drink, but be aware of how much you are imbibing, number 1. Also be aware of who you're around.
I know that some people blame it on the alcohol. I just don't buy it. It's an excuse to me. Like, by whatever age you're at a conference drinking, I can't imagine this happens. But if you know that you turn into a shitty person by drinking, then don't drink at the conference.
Don't drink at a conference. When I was at the Colorado Gold last year, I did have a couple of drinks down in the bar. We were on the lookout for the sexy Bigfoot cutout. Unfortunately, we did not take pictures with it. We were a little tipsy. And then when we were sober in the morning, unfortunately, sexy Bigfoot was gone. I do promise that at the next conference next month, I will take many pictures of sexy Bigfoot.
And we will be at the Colorado Gold Conference in September.
If you're there, please come and find us.
Yeah.
I don't bite too much. I'm a lot better about that these days. So please come and see us. The only other comment that I have about, what do authors owe their readers is kind of in some ways the flip side of Sinners and Stardust. When authors attack, when they push back on their readers, it's great if you are in a position where you feel secure enough in your career that you're not worried about losing readers by being an asshole to them. I'm thinking particularly about the author of the Magnolia Parks series, whose name is Jessa Hastings. I had not been aware of this whole Magnolia Parks universe at all until I accidentally came across it on Reddit, where all the worst and best things live. And I was curious about a book universe number one, that I hadn't heard about, that had its own subreddit. But number two, about what looked to me like a modern version of the classic 70s to 90s subgenre of the shopping and fucking women's fiction, along the lines of Scrupin and Judith Krantz and Danielle Steele and all of that good stuff. Sidney Sheldon. I do like some name dropping in books. I do a little bit of brand dropping in my own from time to time. But when I was talking the other week about finding a comp that you hate, this is what I was talking about. In some ways, Magnolia Parks is a comp to what I'm writing right now, in that there are young, beautiful people having sex and shopping. There's not a lot of shopping in mine, but there is some shopping. They are having sex. Anyway, I read the first 40 or so pages. It's not, to my eyes, not very good. And this taps into our topic of comparison. This book and all of these books that she has written are trad-pubbed by Penguin Random House. Hard to get much bigger. Okay, let the hate flow through you. Yes, it's all good. It's all good.
It goes back to what I was saying. Publishers publish marketable books, not necessarily good books.
These are very marketable. These are very good looking, sexy people living in London.
Yeah.
In a time, from what I can tell, overlaps with the time that I lived in London. And I'm like looking at it and going like, none of this makes sense. Lady, did you live there? Because it doesn't seem like it. She didn't. She just likes to go on vacation there. Anyway, she has made this community. Good for her. That's great. She's selling a whole lot of books. Wonderful. It's the way that she has been engaging with her fans recently that has made me a little like, what are you doing? So she appears to be addicted to the social media dramas. So am I now. But I don't kind of take part in them. I just observe them, kind of Margaret Mead style. She has straight up told readers, please stop asking me about this character or this book series. When am I going to put out book 3 in this book series? If you don't stop asking me, I'm going to kill that character off and there won't be a book 3. That is a terrible attitude. It's so entitled. I'm glad that you're at a place where you feel secure enough in your writing, in your career, that you can basically tell the people who put money in your pocket, go screw yourselves. I want to be in this position where I could tell readers, don't get me wrong, but I would just think it because I'm a classy lady.
It's a pretty mean take to be annoyed by the fans that just, they want more from you, right? What a great position to be in, to have fans that want to read more of your work. And what a not so great way to respond to that.
Yeah. I've been following this subreddit and I've been seeing it sour over the past few months. There are some subreddits about books and book universes that I don't even read, that I'm just fascinated with the culture in these groups and seeing how they react. It's almost like the author is getting in the way between the reader and the characters. Like if they could tank the author, they might be here.
Yeah, man, as an author, that's not what you want to do.
No, you really don't want to do that. Be humble. Even if you're just pretending to be humble, that's better than saying, piss off, I don't need you anyway, and burn all the bridges because you don't know what the next book is going to be like. And if you've got a mortgage to pay, maybe you don't want to do that. But that's just me. Again, I want this problem. I will try not to tell you to go piss off.
Yeah, it's a great problem to have. Not such a great response.
So to wrap up, comparison is probably the thief of joy, even if we have absolutely no idea who said it. And it's probably a good idea to keep your hands to yourself, try not to molest people, and be thankful for the success that you do have once you have it. And we do genuinely hope that you do have some success going your way. I certainly hope that Kirk and I have some success coming our way.
For sure.
We have earned it.
We've earned it.
Please find us on all the social media, Bluesky, Instagram, Threads, Not the Evil Empire that starts with X. We're Bad Lit Friends everywhere. We have a new website, which I had super fun making last weekend. We are badlitfriends.com. Like, subscribe, review, like our wonderful reviewer gave us a review. I cannot tell you how wonderful that was to get today. I was super excited about it. Thank you.
More, please.
More, please. We've earned it.
We did this for 4 weeks. We put in the work. We deserve it.
Oh my God. And for a fifth, we are, as Kirk mentioned, we are going to be talking about querying, the nuts and bolts, tentatively calling it querying for the terribly nervous, which is what I am usually most of the time.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun one.
Kirk knows a lot. So thank you again for listening to Bad Lit Friends. See you again next time.
Bye.